So one of the most fundamental exercises that you can prescribe for your core, and therefore one of the most important, is the plank. And it's something I prescribe very regularly for my clients, and it's in the attention to detail where we can make this exercise particularly challenging and therefore particularly beneficial for us as well. So this variation, we're going to start off kneeling, okay, and you're going to see how this becomes challenging as I go through the progressions. So the first thing is to get the setup right. You need to make sure feet and knees are hip width apart. As we come to the ground, same with the elbows, so everything is in alignment all the way down our chain. And the next thing to look at is that my elbows are stacked underneath my shoulders. So I should have a nice stacked joint going into the floor, and that way we're going to eliminate the shoulders or arm strength becoming a limiting factor in this exercise. Now, I recommend using a video camera or a mirror to make sure that we're hitting these cues. Alternatively, a partner can also check you. So I'm using Joe. Hopefully I'm getting to a relatively parallel position relative to the ground, so my bum should be level with my shoulders off the ground.
Tuck your hips in.
About right? Yeah, okay.
That's better.
So now, if we're in a parallel shape, what we're trying to do is to get as flat as possible. So there's two cues that are going to be most typically relevant to most people. And as Joe said, one of them is going to be tucking your hips. Most people are going to dip into this position, okay, and I want you to pull under like this to flatten out that lower back and that lumbar curve. So that's going to require a little bit of core activation as well as a bit of a squeeze of your glutes as well. As we do this, typically in most people, what you're going to see is as the hips tuck under, the upper back will start to round. And the real challenge of this exercise is to dissociate your lower and upper back. Okay, so as we tuck, we need to make sure that we're maintaining thoracic extension. So hopefully now, I should be relatively flat and good to go. Already this is starting to get quite tough. So the progressions from here, if we can nail this part of the exercise. If we can't, let's just stay here and make sure that we can really hit it consistently. From here, I'm going to push long through one leg. So again, squeezing my glute and trying to maintain all the cues we've talked about so far, and also to avoid any dipping on either side of my pelvis. So I'm trying to stay parallel and square to the ground. I'm going to have to rest because that was really tough. The next progression is where we're going to do a bilateral hip extension, where I'm going to bring both hips towards the ground. Now this one really is extremely advanced. So from this position, I'm tucked in parallel. Is that looking okay, Joe?
Yeah, you're good.
There. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is start bringing my hips towards the ground and my chest coming up. So I'm trying to make a straight line between my knees and my shoulders. As we do this, those cues are going to become harder, maintaining thoracic extension, keeping the pelvis tucked. They're going to get exponentially harder as we get closer to the ground. And I'm absolutely toasted. So those are the progressions. I don't think many of you are going to be able to get that far through them, so let's just stick to the basics. Let's make sure we're nailing those cues in isolation, the tuck of the pelvis, the thoracic extension, and then working up very, very gradually from there. Work within your own tolerance to fatigue. We're not going to absolute exhaustion. Work until you kind of get the shakes on a little bit and then rest there. If we're doing this correctly with the right attention to detail, that should be plenty challenging enough.